Ye bahisho bhaga bhajam paradu. Prasadayadvam parishuddha cetasa. Chipra prasadam pragrinitangri padmam. Prasadam pragrinitangri padmam. Atapi yuyam kritakil bisabhavam. Ye bahisho bhaga bhajam paradu. Prasadayatvam prarishuddha cetasa. Chipra prasadam pragrinitangri padmam. Prasadam pragrinitangri padmam. Etapayuyam kritakil bisabhavam. Ye bahisho bhaga bhajam paradu. Prasadayatvam parishuddha cetasa. Chipra prasadam pragrinitangri padmam. Pragritangri padmam. Someone else? Cha prasadam pragrihi. Bahisho bhaga bhajam paradu. Prasadayatvam parishuddha cetasa. Chipra prasadam pragrahitangri padmam. Vaishnavis. Atapi yuyam kritakil bisabhavam. Ye bahisho bhaga bhajam paraduhu. Prasadayatvam parishuddha cetasa. Chipra prasadam pragrahitangri padmam. Word for word. Ata api. Still. Duyam. All of you. Krita kilbisa. Having committed offences. Bhavam. Lord Shiva. Yea. All of you. Bahisha. Of the sacrifice. Bhagabhajam, entitled to a share. Paradu, have excluded. Prasadayatvam, all of you should satisfy. Parishuddha cetasa, without mental reservations. Chipra prasadam, quick mercy. Pragrihita angri padmam, his lotus feet having been taken shelter of. Translation. You have excluded Lord Shiva from taking part in the sacrificial results, and therefore you are all offenders at his lotus feet. Still, if you go without mental reservations and surrender unto him, and fall down at his lotus feet, he will be very pleased. Translation, please repeat. You have excluded Lord Shiva from taking part in the sacrificial results, and therefore you are all offenders at his lotus feet. Still, if you go without mental reservations and surrender unto him and fall down at his lotus feet, he will be very pleased. Purport. Lord Shiva is also called Ashutosha. Ashu means very soon, and Tosha means to become satisfied. The demigods were advised to go to Lord Shiva and beg his pardon, and because he is very easily pleased, it was certain that their purpose would be served. Lord Brahma knew the mind of Lord Shiva very well, and he was confident that the demigods, who were offenders at his lotus feet, could mitigate their offences by going to him and surrendering without a reservation. Tapi yuyam kritakil bisa bhavam ibahi shobhaga bhajam paraduhu prasadayatvam pradishura chetasa chipra prasadam pragrihitangri padmam. You have excluded Lord Shiva from taking part in the sacrificial results, and therefore you are all offenders at his lotus feet. Still, if you go without mental reservations and surrender unto him, fall down at his lotus feet, he will be very pleased. So continuing on now, the Devas have gone to see Lord Brahma after the Daksha Yagya, where Daksha had again committed offence. Firstly, he committed offence in the first Yagya, where he spoke harsh words against his son-in-law, Lord Shiva. Of course, Lord Shiva is a great personality on the level of Lord Vishnu. He's actually no one's son-in-law or son or anything like that. But in the familial relationships, he was the husband of Sati. So Daksha thought because of that, when he came to the assembly, Lord Shiva, along with everybody else stood up and offered respects to Daksha. He was the Yajumam, the chief honorary person. But Lord Shiva, being in meditation, didn't do that. So immediately and very quickly, Daksha became offended. That's very much symptomatic, especially of those in the Rajaguna. And generally in the Tamaguna, they're very steady in that regard. But in mode of passion, some very quickly, and very quickly can subside also. And Daksha, of course, are very much in the mode of passion. And of course, being elevated personality, had also sattva gun. He had a mode of goodness as well. Significant act committed at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, such a great personality. Lord Shiva didn't say anything, just like a true Vaishnava. He was silent, and he just left the arena. So this is true Vaishnava. It's not so easy to be forbearing like that. Quite often we find that those in the mode of passion and ignorance, sometimes you may not commit an offence, but if an offence is committed against you, then you retaliate very quickly, and then you commit offence against the one who's committed offence against you, and then the one who's committed offence in the first place commits a further offence, and then the whole thing just escalates, and the whole thing becomes disaster, as was the case in this big, huge Daksha Yagya here, where all the demigods, who really should have known better, but people get caught up in the moment of everything, the heat of the moment. These are great exalted personalities, Bhrigu Muni and all big, huge personalities of the universe, and they should have known better. And actually, they should have done something, but because they were there and the situation was such, the yagya was going on, Daksha was organising everything, they should have said something. When Daksha started saying bad things against Lord Shiva, someone should have said something, but no one did. So they're all implicated in the whole business of committing offence. So one has to be very, very careful. So as I said, if people are in the mode of passion and ignorance, then someone may commit offence. And that goes on all the time. People today are mainly in the mode of passion and ignorance. Maybe there's some goodness there, but mainly in the mode of passion and ignorance. So there will be all sorts of insults and offences taking place, just being impelled, being under those modes of material nature. So we find all over the world, not hard to see, so much fighting going on. In Kali Yuga, age of quarrel, it is said that wherever there are two people, there'll be fighting going on. I remember one time, I won't mention their names, but a couple of our devotees were sent from our Melbourne temple back in the early days to go open a temple in Perth. There was no temple in Perth at the time. And so they were driving across, it was a long drive, and on the way across, later on, one of them was, well, both of them I heard, they were arguing with one another who was going to be the temple president. There's only two of them. I said, no, I should be the temple. No, I should be the temple president. They had a big argument. When they got there, one of them left. There was only one left over there, and so we had to send some other devotees. So even amongst devotees, these sort of things go on, and we're on the path of devotional service. But because we're on the beginners, we're still affected. But those who are in the mode of passion, ignorant, all the time it goes on. Doesn't a day go past? Doesn't a day go past? So many times during the day even, you're having some sort of argument, some sort of quarrel, and it can escalate to huge, gigantic proportions, as we can see in the world today. Practically the world, again, is on the brink of a world disaster. And we find history repeats itself. It must do. There's a reactions to sinful activities, and under the modes of nature, these things must go on. So the world has to change. There's no amount of United Nations or any other plans will really change it in any significant way. Everyone's calling for peace, but no one follows it, and they just continue on. We see the conflict between Israel and Hamas and Russia and Ukraine and China and so many all over the world, and whether it's country to country, then domestically, so many. So unfortunately, because of the mode of passion and ignorance, these things are going on continuously. And now here we have a great personality being offended. This is very, very serious. This is called the Hati Mati Aparad. Hati Mati means Hati, of course, means elephant. Hati Mati means mad elephant. Mad elephant offense, aparad. The mad elephant offense. Now, if you have a garden, you can be taking a long time to, make that garden, prepare the soil, put the fertilizer, bring the seeds, bring the water, take the weeds. But if one's not careful, things can go bad, and things can grow up nicely, and you're taking a long time to prepare that garden. But if there's a big, huge elephant, and the elephant's gone wild, he can just trample through that garden, and within a moment, what you've taken 6 months or a year to prepare that garden, it can be finished within a second. It can be finished in a second. It doesn't take an elephant very long to ruin a garden. It's nothing for the elephant, is it? So when you Pashada, great personalities, associates. Now there's associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're called Pashada devotees. They're Vaishnava associates. These are very high devotees, very, very high devotees. Now Lord Shiva, his expansion, he's like Vishnu. He is like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what type of big personality is Lord Shiva? One has to be very, very careful in the presence of big personalities. And actually, I remember in the beginning when we were new devotees, we had opportunity to be with Srila Prabhupada sometimes, and the more senior devotees would instruct us. Now, be very careful when you're around Prabhupada. He's our acharya, he's our guru, that you don't commit any offense, you don't say something that may give rise to being insulting to Prabhupada or something like that. Just be very, very careful. around Srila Prabhupada. So we were instructed like that. We didn't know much about what is the etiquette. One has to learn, as I was saying in answer to a question yesterday morning's class, that one has to learn the Vaishnav etiquette. What is the Vaishnav? How to deal with one another in a Vaishnav way. We've grown up in a materialistic culture, so we've learned by so many different ways how to deal with one another on the materialistic level, and quite often it's disaster. So we don't want to carry that over to the level of devotional service. And there are methods of how one can act in devotional service, avoiding, as I said, these different types of apparats, Nam apparata, and Seva apparata, and Guru apparata, Vaishnav apparata, and certainly, a great personality, Hati Mati apparata, the great mad elephant offense, can ruin everything. We were telling the story, where was it? The white leprosy, white spot. Oh, there's one story of Devananda Pandit. Devananda Pandit in Chaitanya Leela, very appropriate. We've got Gopurnim coming up, and I've been giving a few classes at our Bhakti Bhiksha, the last couple of days, talking on Chaitanya Leela. This story of Devananda Pandit, this is before even Lord Chaitanya took his appearance. Devananda Pandit was living over the Nabadwip side, and the Kulia area of Mayapur, on the other side of the Ganga, from where we are. And he was a Pandit, and he had a school, and he had students. And he was teaching every morning. He would teach from Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was a Pandit. He was a little bit of a smarter Brahmana, but he would recite Bhagavatam. He had some faith in God, but it was a little bit tinged with impersonalism. His presentation was tinged with impersonalism. Nevertheless, he had many students, and one time Srivas Pandit came there to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And as Devananda Pandit was speaking, he was speaking some nice leelas about Krishna and his devotees. And when Srivas Thakur is very advanced. He's what's called Rasika Bhakta. Rasika Bhakta. Rasika Bhakta means on the spontaneous level, high devotee. Very high devotee. Rasika Bhakta. There's Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti means spontaneous. We don't really need to follow any rules and regulations. You're always thinking about Krishna, always surrendered to Krishna, always have great affection and love for Krishna continuously. And these are called Raganuga. This is the Raganuga platform. These are called Rasika Bhaktas. So Rasika Bhaktas in this world are very rare. Srivas Thakur, of course, he is one of the Pancha Tattva. So he was very high devotee. Anyway, he just wanted to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. He was so attracted to hear Krishna Leela that when he went there, he sat in the class, and when he heard a certain passage from Devananda Pandit, he became in ecstasy. He began to shiver, a hair stood on end, he began to cry, he began even to roll on the ground, making noises, just remembering these parts. He began to get out of control. So the students, of course, who were beginners, they were there hearing their guru, and so they were a bit disturbed, that he was doing that in the class of their guru. So in one sense, it's understandable. You're a student, you're in the class of the guru, and someone's creating disturbance. So they were tolerated for a little while, but then they became more disturbed as Srivas Pandit was just continuing and rolling in ecstasy. And a few of them decided they picked him up and they ejected him from the assembly. Now, meanwhile, Devananda Pandit was looking at the whole thing, and he never did anything. He never said anything. He never did anything. You would expect the guru to be a little bit more mature than especially beginning disciples. But he never did anything. So he was implicated. Now, that was a great offence. He was an ordinary personality. Srivas Pandit, Rasika Bhakta, and they shouldn't have disturbed his mood. Some other arrangement would be made, there's silence even. Sometimes I remember a couple of times Prabhupada, one time in Mayapur, he was leading Jaya Radha Madhava, and he became overwhelmed in ecstasy, and he just stopped, and there was just silence. It was just silence, and there were many devotees. There was during the Mayapur festival, and he just stopped. He became so overwhelmed with ecstasy, Jaya Radha Madhava, he could see some tears were coming from his eyes, and everything just stopped. And everyone was silent. Then after a while, one of the senior devotees just started having kirtan. So, when these things occur with great devotees, you have to be very sensitive. So one has to be a little bit advanced devotee themselves to understand what is the situation. But because they weren't very mature devotees, they didn't understand, and so they committed a great offense. They ejected him. Now, years later, at the house of Srivas Thakur, Lord Chaitanya was there. He was going there for kirtan, and he brought up to Srivas Thakur that you remember when you went to the house of Devananda Pandit and you were unceremoniously thrown out from there. I know about that. Lord Chaitanya hadn't taken his appearance yet at that time. This happened before Lord Chaitanya appeared, but Lord Chaitanya brought it up. He said, I know about that. And I was very disturbed by that activity. And actually, he said that, if I could go over there and tear up his manuscript of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I would do it. What does he know about Srimad Bhagavatam, he said. Srimad Bhagavatam is about the personality. There's the book Bhagavat, and there's the person Bhagavat. The book Bhagavat, it means the stories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotee Bhagavat is that devotee who is very dear to the Supreme Personality of God. He said there's no difference between the two of them. You cannot recite from the book Bhagavat and cause offences to the devotee Bhagavat. So he said if I could go there. And then later on, he was going past the house of Devananda Pandit, and he said in a loud voice, you are, saying that you are speaking and knowing Srimad Bhagavatam, but who are you? You're committing so many offences against your devotees. All the fruits of your activity will be useless. So words to that effect. Actually, there's a passage that's written by Acharyas of what Lord Chaitanya said to him as he walked past. Then Lord Chaitanya just immediately left, and he just excluded Devananda Pandit from his association of his inner circle association of his devotees. Nothing can be worse to be excluded like that. And so he paid no attention after that. He ignored Devananda Pandit. After he said that, he ignored him. So Devananda Pandit heard it, and he began to reflect on it, but he didn't think that much of it. Later on, Vakreshwara Pandit, who's a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, who was always feeling ecstasy, he came to that area, and he was staying at the house. Some say he was staying actually at Devananda Pandit's house, but actually I think it's more, he was staying at another devotee's house. And one evening he came out, and there was kirtan going on in the area, and he came and he started dancing. Now we know Vakreshwara Pandit is very famous for dancing in kirtan. Very beautiful dancing, very, very beautiful dancing, and crying in ecstasy, chanting and dancing simultaneously. So a big crowd gathered to watch Vakreshwara Pandit dance and chant. And a big crowd, and so much so, and so many people were there. Devananda Pandit just happened to be there, and he was watching, and he was very affected. He was moved by the chanting and the dancing of Vakreshwara Pandit. And so much so, he actually stayed watching him for some time. Just watching him, and as the crowds became more and more, they were coming in and they were impeding him dancing a little bit. So Devananda Pandit got some of his students to keep the crowds back so Vakreshwara Pandit could dance freely. And so he did that service to him. And he fell at his feet and begged Vakreshwara Pandit's mercy. So since that time he had a change of heart, and he started to realize more and more, by the mercy of Vakashvara Pandit being purified in his association, that about the offence he had committed against Srivas Pandit. He started to think about it. Now at that time, after that, Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas and he had gone to Jagannath Puri, so he was there some years. He again came back to Sridham Mayapur, and at one time he went over to a place called Aparada Bhanjanam. Aparada Bhanjanam is the place where you can go and beg forgiveness for your offences. It is nearby, it's on the Navadvip side, is pretty much where Sridhar, Prabhupada's godbrother Sridhar Maharaj has his mutt there. It is in that area there. It's called Aparada Bhanjanam. So you can go there and beg forgiveness if there's some devotees there. So Lord Chaitanya went there, and many devotees came and saw him and begged forgiveness. And at that time, Devananda Pandit took advantage that Lord Chaitanya went there. And he came there and he fell at his feet, begged forgiveness, and Lord Chaitanya accepted him. He raised him up and embraced him, that you have changed by the mercy of Vakashvara Pandit. Your heart has become soft because of the mercy of Vakashvara Pandit. And your heart before was hard and you committed offence. Now it's become soft. But still one thing, you have to go to Srivas Thakur and you have to beg forgiveness for your offence. Even this was many years later. He said, still you have to go there. You have to beg forgiveness. And so Devananda Pandit, he did that, and he begged forgiveness. Of course, Srivas Pandit never took any offence. He's such an exalted devotee, Rasika Bhakta. He actually, even though he was physically picked up and ejected, he never took offence. And now this is a very advanced devotee. Not all of us can be like that, although we should try to be like that. But this is a very natural thing. For advanced devotees, that Srivas Thakur never thought anything of it. Nor did he actually mention it to anyone. Nor did he mention it. He didn't mention it to anyone. Sometimes, even if we don't do anything against someone who's committed offence, sometimes we may mention it to someone else. I went over there and he said that or she said that. You may mention it. But Srivas Thakur didn't even mention it to anybody. Didn't even mention it. And he was very surprised when years later Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought it up. He remembered, even though he didn't appeared yet. And he said, I remember that offence against you. So Srivas Thakur was very amazed that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyway, Srivas Thakur just embraced him and said, I didn't take any offence, but now you've received the mercy of Vakashvara Pandit and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I give you all the blessings to be a true follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ki Jai. And so he did that, and he became, Lord Chaitanya brought him into his inner circle, and he became a very great Vaishnava follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he overcame that offence that he committed, even though he didn't personally pick him up. Still, he was there, and he should have done something, and he was implicated. So we read here, a very nice story here. And there's many instances where great Vaishnavas have been offended. Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, Jagai and Madai. We remember the story of the dacoit leader, that when Lord Nityananda came back from Jagannath Puri, he went into the Grihastha and he went out on Kirtan. Lord Chaitanya had told him to go back to the Bengal, to go back to Mayapur and lead the Kirtan throughout the whole of Bengal and Mayapur. He was going out and he became a Grihastha. Got married, became a Grihastha, and he was dressed, many people gave him jewelry, gave him offerings, and he would wear these things. So one dacoit, he was formerly Brahmana, but he turned dacoit. He was the leader of a big gang of dacoits. Dacoits means thieves, of course, and plunderers. And so he saw all the jewelry, and so he actually, somehow or other, he joined the Kirtan party. They were going on the kirtan in the street, and so he was also dancing Hari Hari Hari, but all the time he was checking out the jewelry, and then he hatched a plan. He went back to his gang and said, and he found out later on. Of course, Lord Nityananda knew everything already, but he was staying at who is that devotee? He was staying. I forget the name. He was staying one day. Who lived a little bit on the fringes of Navadvip. I forget, the name will come to me. He was staying with one devotee there in his house. And so that this dacoit hatched a plan that we'll go and lay in wait at night time. When they all fall asleep, we'll go in there and we'll get all that jewelry. Anything else anyone has, we'll get that also. So a whole gang there. And so they went in the darkness of the night, and then, all right, he sent someone in there. What are they doing? Oh, they're all having kirtan and all talking, and now they're having prasad. So then he said, oh, well, very soon they'll take rest. So we'll just wait a while. We'll take a little rest. And he said to one of them, you stay awake, and then when you see they've taken rest, you wake us all up. And so, but that one, he also fell asleep. And so then they were woken up by the crows crowing. And they're all looking around. The dacoit, the leader, he became very angry. Why you fell asleep? Now we've lost the opportunity. Now it's daylight. Everyone is active. So then, all right, maybe we've offended, because he was, I think he was a follower of Chandi Devi, and he would worship the goddess Chandi. And so maybe we've made an offence. Maybe this is why our plan was thwarted. So he went and he worshipped Chandi Devi very nicely the next. And so we'll wait a little while and then we'll go back again. So when they went back again in the evening time, they saw these big, huge, gigantic guards with Vaishnav tilak, but big mustaches, and they were just gigantic, 7 foot, 8 foot tall, and so many of them just marching up and down around the compound. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And they had all these weapons, knives and swords and everything like that. They were just bristling with weapons. And just one of them looked like they could defeat the whole gang of the dacoits. So, and the leader said that, where have these fellows come from all of a sudden? He said, maybe Nityananda has the patronage of one king, and the king sent these men to guard him. They were thinking like that. They were thinking all sorts of things. So now is not a good time to do any attack. So we'll leave it a few weeks. We'll leave it a few weeks. They'll go. Everyone will go, and then we'll go back again. And so the next time they went, then all of a sudden, everything became black. The moon was covered, all the clouds came, and a big wild storm came, and very like torrential rain turned to hail also. And as they were trying to go, all of a sudden they became like blind. When it's very dark, you don't have any moon or stars or any lights, you can't see anything. All of us have experienced when it's very dark. So something like at New Govardhan, when there's dark moon and you try to go out, you can't even see your hand. So it became like that. And so they were just some of them. There was like some moat with thorny bushes. Some of them fell in there, and all of a sudden these big gigantic mosquitoes came and attacked them. And so many things, and they were being lashed by the hail that was coming inside. A big wind was coming, and so. The leader said, how is all this happening? He had some realization. I don't think he is ordinary personality. I think maybe he's some very empowered personality. He's actually I think he is the cause of all this. He had some realization that Lord Nityananda is the cause of it. And maybe he is the God himself. He even came to that conclusion. Maybe he is some sort of God himself. Maybe he is God. And so he had a realization and change of heart, and he thought that our position... then all of a sudden, when he did like that, when he had to change, all the storm stopped, and they could see again. And so he went there and he fell at the feet of Lord Nityananda. As I said, Lord Nityananda, he knew everything already, and he actually said that to him. He said, "I knew already what you were up to, but nevertheless, to purify you, I put you through all sorts of trials and tribulations." So there's another story where that one, he came and he fell at the feet and begged mercy, and Lord Nityananda accepted him. He said, but you have to change your ways. No more of this dacoit. No more stealing and plundering, and even... They were known to even have killed some people. You immediately stop that, and your whole gang, that's no more. No more. And anyone you meet, if you know other... And because he's dacoit, he knew other gangs also. And so he became a great devotee of Lord Nityananda, and he was preaching to the others who were doing the same thing, and he converted many of them to become actual devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's another story. So many stories of what to do when one commits offence. So here, Lord Brahma, he's advocating here. The previous verse, he said that you cannot be happy executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and offend him. So that's one thing. You blaspheme the great personality. Daksha did the blaspheming, but no one said anything. So therefore they were implicated. So that's one thing. You cannot have happiness in that way. It's just like you're biting the hand that feeds you. That's that saying in English. Some hand is coming to feed you, but you bite it. So what's the use of that? You bite the hand that feeds you. So you cannot be happy. And then he's going on to say, you're offering the yagya was performed, and generally so many devas are offered shares of the yagya. Lord Shiva is one of the chief beneficiary personalities of worship, and he's been excluded. So another reason is given by Lord Brahma. You should immediately go there and beg forgiveness. And you should go, this is very interesting, he uses this word here, parishuddha cetasa, without mental reservations. Don't go there in a begrudging way just because I've told you to go there. You come to me, and I mentioned yesterday, perhaps some of them were thinking that Lord Brahma would be sympathetic with them. Look what they've done. Look what the followers of the Lord Shiva, look what his soldiers have done. And perhaps Brahma would be sympathetic and take action against Lord Shiva and take action against the soldiers. But he wasn't at all. He actually chastised them. And now he's telling them to go and beg forgiveness at the feet of Lord Shiva. And then he adds, and when you go there, don't have any ill feeling. I remember there was a couple of bhaktas that were having big argument, and when I was president of Melbourne Temple many years ago, and one of them came to me and told me, and I said, well, you should go and try to rectify that situation, speak to him, and try to, both of you should offer your obeisances. And so he told me later on that he went there and he wanted to offer, beg forgiveness and offer obeisances, but that they were both new bhaktas. And that devotee said, no, I'm not accepting. You're an offender. So then when he told me, then I had to intervene and speak to both of them. Now that is not the mood of the Vaishnava. Not the mood of the Vaishnava. And so here we read about Lord Shiva, Ashutosh, very, very quickly, easily satisfied. Here I think the word is a quicker, chipra prasadam. Chipra prasadam means very quick mercy. You want to get quick mercy? Lord Shiva can be quickly angered also, but also he's very quick to get the mercy. So you're very lucky in that sense. You're very lucky. He became angry because of what happened to Sati and what Sati did, and so you received the wrath of Lord Shiva and his followers. But now also on the other side, he's quick to give the mercy. He's quick to forgive. If you just surrender unto him, but if you go there with in a begrudging way, sometimes someone, you have to go and do this. All right, I'll do it. And then begrudgingly you do it. And sometimes you may do it, maybe pay your bait, but then you make some remark. So, in other words, Lord Brahma was instructing, don't go like that. Just go full surrender. Full surrender. Just fall at the feet of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva will know if you have something in your mind. These are great personalities. They know what you're thinking. He'll know if you come there and just because you've been told by Lord Brahma, but in your mind you're still, harboring some resentment. You're offering obeisance but harboring some resentment, Lord Shiva will know that. So don't go like that. So Lord Brahma is very kind to them. He's a very great advisor. He's being a great devotee himself. He knows everything. So even in the mentality he's advising, don't go harboring some resentment. You're going just because I told you, but still in your mind you're harboring resentment. Don't go like that. Lord Shiva will know that, and it won't be appreciated by him. So then when you go, just throw away any resentment or any ill feeling. Just go and surrender. So the demigods, being exalted as they are, and all the priests and everything like that, they followed his instruction and they went and surrendered, and we'll read that. So very easily, very soon. So these top types of qualities are very much qualities of the Vaishnava, as I said: forbearance and tolerance and forgiveness. It's not, it's not a Vaishnava quality to not accept, to not be forgiving. Not be forgiving. If Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda weren't forgiving, what would our position be? We're so offensive. We go to Mayapur Dham, Navadvip Dham, and all the different holy places there, and we beg forgiveness. And Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they accept. So they're very forgiving. So that is very much quality of Vaishnava, very much quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see it as quality of Lord Shiva, that he is, and Brahma knew that, of course, of Lord Shiva, and he knows Lord Shiva very well. He was confident. He was confident that if the demigods went there with that mood, that Lord Shiva would accept, and therefore all their offences would be mitigated. Surrendering without reservation. So in general, the principle is, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we should try our best to surrender without reservation. Then we'll be protected. And this is what's mentioned in the next few verses. Of course, Lord Chaitanya is very kind. Even if you go with reservations, you're not fully surrendered, still he accepts you. So that is the great compassion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Krishna came, he first said, Savanamam Paritya, you first of all surrender completely, then I'll protect you. But Lord Chaitanya said, if you surrender or don't surrender, I give my mercy. I give my mercy. But to make rapid progress, to make steady, very quick progress, if the more one surrenders, the more quickly one will advance in devotional service. You can surrender, but with reservations, then you'll go more slowly. And if you commit offences, then you're going to have to get. Then it's all these things are very problematic. Then you have to find out how to remedy all that. So it's like you're cooking, and the flame is here, but then you put the pot very high, far away from the flame. You won't get much result. There'll be some warming going on, because the flame is getting, some heat is reaching up. But in cooking, you have to put the pot right on the flame, and then the cooking will go on very nicely, very quickly. So if we're holding on with reservation or resentment or attachments, these things, then it'll be more slow. So if we can, by engaging in devotional service, understanding Vaishnava etiquette, associating with wonderful Vaishnavas, then we can make a very nice, rapid advancement, steady advancement in Krishna consciousness. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. So does anyone have any question? Comment? Yes, Prabhu. Who? Well, he was dead. His head was separated. Later on, Lord Shiva came there and put a goat's head on him and brought him back to life. When we'll read this as we go through here, that when they came, then Lord Shiva, being very compassionate, he went there and revived Daksha, but he didn't have a head, but his body was still intact. So he put a goat's head, so he had to live a long time with the goat's head. So he didn't go because he couldn't go. All right, very good question. Any other questions? Yes, Bill.
So on the one hand, we see great personalities like Prabhu, they didn't react.
Sorry, we see?
Like great personalities like Prabhu and the other Brahmanas, when Daksha Prajapati was insulting Lord Shiva,
Yeah.
the great personalities, they didn't react, they just sat down observing it. But because of that, they also get cursed. So we see like that. And the same is with Devananda Pandit also. We also see later on associates of Lord Shiva, when they start to curse, they also get counter-cursed. So it looks like
Yeah.
do your doom, don't do your doom. Which one is supposed to?
Oh, you mean in the original Daksha Yagya, yeah. Yeah, because they're a little bit tainted with the mode of ignorance. And so they got caught up, as I was saying in the beginning of the class. You can get caught up, even though you didn't start anything, but you have to be careful. How you react to someone insulting you can be worse than what they said to you. And then you get implicated. It's not easy to be forbearing like that, to tolerate that. It takes great level of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Most times, people generally react. Maybe you didn't start, but someone said something, then you react, and your reaction can be worse. So in the Daksha Yagya, the reactions were, and then the other side reacted again, and then it got out of control. So very easily in the world we see that things get really out of control over small little, what started off as a small little incident. Even sometimes you read between friends, they were drinking or something like that, and someone said something small, and then it sparked, and one of them killed the other one. They were supposed to be friends. And so it can get out of control very quickly. So this is the effect of the, mode of ignorance, especially, mode of ignorance. And it follows of Lord Shiva, affected by the mode of ignorance. And mode of ignorance means intoxication. There's so much intoxication in the world today. When you take a lot of intoxication and drinking and drugs and so many things like that, you get out of control of your own situation. And also, when you get like that, when you get out of control of your own situation, then they're all subtle beings, bhutas and things like that. They take advantage, and then they come and influence you as well. So then you do atrocious things, being in that, under that mode, and also being influenced by perhaps bhutas and other subtle beings who are very malicious. Any other question? Yes, Prabhu.
Extension for Prabhu's question. Initially, when the first sacrifices happened, Lord Brahma was present, and Daksha was actually abusing verbally towards Shiva. At that time, did he have room to correct his son? Did he have a space to correct his son?
Who? You mean Brahma? Yeah. Seems like it was a flow continuously. And also, as I mentioned yesterday, there was a greater plan. I mean, they didn't attend the second yagya. Lord Brahma didn't come. This was mentioned in the verses yesterday. Lord Brahma didn't come and Lord Vishnu didn't come. And so there was a greater plan that these things would happen. And such an extreme thing had to happen to curb Daksha, because he was so proud and puffed up that something extreme had to happen. Otherwise, he was going to continue doing this type of thing again and again and again. So exactly why, it seems that when Daksha started, he just continued, and why Lord Brahma didn't do anything at the first yagya. There was some sort of greater plan afoot, and in the second yagya, both of them didn't attend. And it was mentioned because they knew what was going to happen. Lord Narayan and Lord Brahma, they knew exactly what was going to happen. And so the thing, even though very extreme on the smaller level, the greater plan was that so many good things would come out of it in the end. So sometimes the smaller plan has to give way to the greater plan. So this is the understanding I have from reading through this particular section here. Yes. Well, they can never be touched by that type of thing. Just like Lord Shiva and Lord, Vishnu, Brahma, they are very exalted. Even though these things are going on, they cannot be considered to be implicated. Normally in these situations, you try to do something about it if you have enough influence. You have to consider that very carefully, because sometimes when you try to intervene, it makes it worse. Then you get attacked. Just like, for example, if you look at dogs, dogs are fighting. If you ever had any pets, like a couple of dogs, a friend of mine had a couple of dogs as pets, and one time they were kind of big dogs, and they were fighting with each other, they were normally friendly, but one time they were fighting, and very aggressively fighting. So he went in there to break it up, and then they attacked him. That's quite common. They attacked him. Their anger, being frustrated at each other, turned and focused on him. So we have to be very careful in these situations when there's too much anger around, that if we involve ourselves directly, if we think we can do something, or if we don't think we're that influential, or if we think that if we do something it will become worse, then it's best to just go away, as Lord Shiva did. Lord Shiva went away, and Brahma and Lord Vishnu didn't do anything, because there was, as I just said, there was a greater plan to rectify Daksha ultimately. Something extreme had to happen. He was getting out of control. So they just allowed it. But as far as them getting implicated, if that's your question, no. They can never be implicated. Just like Lord Vishnu, he's never implicated in any of the activities of the world. So many apparats, but he's not affected by that. He doesn't have to really answer to that. Although there's some leelas sometimes where you read about, Vishnu being implicated, but that's just some leela. But really, in the general principle, he's never affected. And even Lord Brahma, he's so great, such a high position, he's not really affected. So as far as implication, no, they're not implicated in that. All right, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.